Very honored and pleased to be here with you and looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, this is going to be awesome. So for people starting to arrive early, I can just let you know that you can engage with us through the Facebook comment feed or also on YouTube, the chat feed, and we'll see your questions and comments. And I'll select the questions that we'll take, and we'll actually be able to show them on the screen and everything, which is cool. And on that note, I guess I'll just tell people a little bit about the Restream service we're using. We actually have a partnership with Restream, which will broadcast on over 30 different channels. Facebook and YouTube is what we're broadcasting to, but they support many different outlets. And so we're glad to have them as a partner to support all of our events throughout the year. And we're happy with them so far. We can support up to 4 speakers on the screen right now, and they're going to be upgrading to allow more speakers on the screen for larger events. So hopefully we'll have more speakers for future events. And we'll also be using Restream for B&T's events. Our next Boston New Technology event is going to be on July 15th. And it's for any technology related to COVID-19. If anyone is interested in signing up, primarily we feature founders. There's no cost for founders to present at Boston New Technology events, which take place at least monthly. And sometimes we have additional seminars that we run as well. So let's see, we're at 3 minutes past. I think that we will welcome everyone. So I'll just say, hey, everyone. Thanks to all who joined. And I'm Chris Requena again, welcoming you to Founders Sagas. This is actually our first installment of this weekly webcast and podcast. And again, I'm the founder of Boston New Technology, which is a for-profit technology startup and business community of over 27,000 members. Our mission is to actually help local businesses launch and grow, especially startups. And our network extends to Austin with over 50,000 members across 14 meetup groups. And my main endeavor is the Dev Connector, where I connect clients with the best developers, development firm, or hiring service based on their specific needs, goals, and priorities. So I'm very excited to launch Founders Sagas today with you, and we're going to be offering fun, insightful interviews with incredible founders. They'll inspire you, give you advice on your startup journey. You'll hear interesting stories about why and how founders launched and grew their companies, including actionable strategies and tactics that work well to accelerate your business today. So tonight's topic is accelerating startups during recession with Pax Momentum co-founder Matthew Hanson. He's a seasoned early-stage investor and entrepreneur and principal at Blu Venture Investors. So again, if you're just joining, please do post your comments on Facebook if you're there, or in the chat feed in YouTube, as well as your questions, and we'll get to those. So as far as Matt, we co-founded Segovia, which is a satellite communications company, which was acquired by Inmarsat for $110 million 7 years after launch. Pretty amazing. And he's also leading investments at Urgently, a roadside assistant startup that was named the 6th fastest growing company in North America by Deloitte. And also investments at MS8, which is a fraud protection startup. And they have $26 million in funding now.
Hey, Chris, your audio is getting a little garbled again.
Okay, we'll see if I can get a little closer. Maybe it'll be good.
That sounds much better.
So finally, Matt is an angel investor with 10 successful investments and exits. And I'd like to welcome Matt. How are you?
I'm great. Yeah, I'm doing well. A little sunburned, but otherwise in good shape.
Cool. Well, let's kick things off and dive right in. So the company you co-founded during the early 2000s recession, Segovia, is a provider of satellite broadband internet. Could you tell us about your inspiration for founding Segovia and the primary keys to your success?
Great question. So, honestly, more than anything, when I look back on that, and I've got 18 years in retrospect. The best thing that I did was you've heard Warren Buffett talking about when other people are fearful, you should be brave and be fearful when everybody else is brave. And 2002 felt a lot like it feels right now. It was a terrible recession for my world, which was telecommunications and data communications. And once Segovia had become successful, I'd kind of get some snide remarks like, "Oh, you lucked out and easy money." And what they don't remember is that in those dark days where jobs were scarce and money was tight, I sold everything I had. I mortgaged my house. I ran up credit card debt because I saw an asset that I wanted to buy. There was a division of a company that was being sold at very good terms. And I thought, man, if I can get that and manage that well, I've got a chance to turn this into something good. So it was dark times. I took a deep breath. I took a chance. You've heard the story about the entrepreneur talking to his spouse, and he asked her if, I'm starting this company. If I lose everything, even though I try really hard, are you still going to love me? And the spouse says, of course I'm going to love you. I'll miss you, but I'm going to love you. And that was the scenario I was in. So I think that was really the key. The other thing I did, well, we could talk about this later as well. We shifted. The kind of clients that we thought we would have weren't spending money, but we did find one entity that was spending money, and that was Uncle Sam. And we never had intended to become a government contractor, but we followed the realities of the economy that we were dealing with.
Okay, super. So how did you get it started? What was the actual spark of this particular idea to do satellite internet?
Well, so the asset that we bought, this is why investors need entrepreneurs, right? I mean, if we knew how to do it, we would do it. That was my world, was satellite networking. I was working for a satellite startup, and I knew that there was this new technology that was a step above anything else that was available for doing, this was broadband internet over not to get too geeky here, but not the low Earth orbit satellites like the ones that Elon Musk has been sending rockets to the geosynchronous. So, 25,000 miles above the equator, and the same videos they use for DirecTV or satellites for DirecTV. And I, knew the technology had an edge on anything else that was out there. And then, this is, again, a lot of nuance, but I saw an efficiency where I bought an asset that had a network spread across 3 satellites. And I saw a way that I could combine that onto 2 satellites and save a bunch of money and become, profitable immediately. So it was really just about knowing my market, knowing my world really well, and seeing an opportunity that would not be obvious to anyone unless they were really close to what was going on.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like you were in the right place at the right time. And so as entrepreneurs, we have to be ready for opportunities whenever they present themselves, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
So could you tell us a bit about some of the primary keys to success? So we know that you were in the right market and it was hot and it was the right technology, but what else helped you succeed?
A lot of it's about building a team. We had, strong people in key positions. They were able to, market development, et cetera. And it's, it's a slog. I don't particularly look back on those days as happy times. It was every day a new challenge. There was never any sense that there was momentum. Rather, it was just rolling the rock up the hill every day. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I did any of those things or executed any better than most entrepreneurs do, but I really do. I think I just have to go back to the fact that we jumped at an opportunity when it presented itself, even though it was scary, and then we adjusted to the realities of the market. So when we bought this asset, it was before, if you remember the Iraq War, it was 6 months before we invaded Iraq. when that happened, we could see that there was going to be a need for advanced communications and that we needed to refocus and really understand government contracting and stuff that was never part of the plan and stuff that we weren't particularly strong in, but we adapted quickly.
Okay, super. It sounds like you had to really persevere for a long time, working long hours and, maybe being away from your family and those kinds of things. How did you deal with that?
I'm back in startup mode now, and I'm trying to do the same things. I'm a salesman. I was a salesman for the first 13 years of my life, which meant I was on the golf course most weeks. And it was hard. There was just no substitute for long hours and for really hard work and a lot of tedious work. And you find out that it's very important that you take care of yourself and, the basics, getting sleep, making sure when you have some free time that you're doing something fun that's a break from the reality, making sure you're, doing the things that bring joy and happiness, trying to find opportunities to serve and do good for others. But it's all those little things that I think kind of keep you sane when it's so intense and long hours and just exhausting. That you really got to make sure, a startup, there's always a deadline and it feels a little frantic, but honestly, I think it's much more analogous to a marathon than it is to a sprint. And you need to pace yourself and realize that the finish line's a long ways off.
Yeah, definitely. People are telling me they can only see half my screen, so my face, I think, on the screen. So I'm trying to see. Okay, now I can see. It looks perfect for me. Which way do I have to move?
I can't see you now, Chris. From my perspective, I can see you're in the middle of the screen right now. I don't know.
Yeah, you guys see me better now?
I see only half of you now.
It looks like there's a delay on our feed, so I can't tell where I am. But I'm trying to just stay in the middle here. Now, people couldn't see me when I moved over. I think I need to be a little bit to this side. Well, let's see if this works. I'll try to do this. So, all right. Well, let's jump forward and talk more about what's going on these days. So you recently started Pax Momentum, a startup accelerator. And we'd love to know, what was your inspiration for doing that and how does it work?
Mm-hmm. After I left Segovia, I kind of shifted gears. I went from being an entrepreneur and an operator to being an investor. And I've spent the last 10 years almost 100%, and then a few years before that, kind of 50%, investing in early stage companies. And it's my passion. I love technology. I love the enthusiasm and the energy and the creativity with startups. And I have been, working at this new career and really trying to be a student of it. And for a number of reasons, decided I would love to have a new challenge. And how do I take what I know and what I learn and what I love and take it to the next level? And for a number of reasons, an accelerator seemed like the right answer.
Yeah, definitely. There are so many great accelerators out there. How do you differentiate yourself?
Yeah, that's interesting. I was inspired. There's one in particular in our area that focused on cybersecurity that I was a fan of, Mach 7. And it's interesting, as I looked around, there are a lot of great accelerators. Many of them in our area in the Mid-Atlantic are sponsored by state economic development authorities and universities. There are others that are focused on certain verticals. Very few that were purely, for profit, similar to Y Combinator and some of the other great organizations we see out of Silicon Valley. And, as I began to understand some of the dynamics, Boston, which of course is a very large recipient of venture capital money, is still maybe a quarter the size of Silicon Valley. So those 50 square miles in Northern California that garners such a large percentage of the VC money, that what we was missing is an accelerator that isn't interested in creating jobs in a particular state. It's not interested in promoting the alumni of a particular university. Rather, 100% aligned with the interests of the startup community, funding great startups and helping them to reach all their goals and become, financially really, really successful. And I happen to be live in the Washington, D.C. area, but I knew that Pax needs to feel like something that, is much bigger than any region, that we need to create a legion knitted together if we're going to do battle against those giants in Silicon Valley. So that's part of it, is that we're for profit. We're focusing on, kind of the world outside Silicon Valley. And the other thing that I think is really important is, where I think we best serve entrepreneurs is by creating and fostering as much contact as we can with others that have been there and done that successfully. And I know there's lots of different people in the startup community that contribute, and I'm always appreciative for anyone that does it. But there's nothing quite like being with the CEO co-founder who started with a blank sheet and went through that grind and the turmoil and came out on the other side very, very successful. The experiences, the insights, the know-how, also the hope, right, to see that there really is could be something very beautiful at the other end of all the effort and the heartache. I think that's unlike a lot of other experiences. So I've been very happy. We've had another number of individuals who have received so much in the startup community and very generous in wanting to give back and to be part of what we're doing with Pax Momentum. So I think that's the other big differentiator is, working with me and other investors that have been there and done that both as entrepreneurs and also had investments that we've had the joy of seeing, the founders really be able to cash in.
Yeah, wow, that's awesome. So Pax is a 6-month accelerator, is that right?
No, it's actually an 8-week program. It's a 2-month program.
Oh, okay, sorry, 2 months. Tell us just a little more about how it works. You invest in the startups and you get some equity, right? Correct.
Yeah, so the main, points would be that we do create cohorts. Our first one launches September 1st. The deadline for applications actually coming up. It's the 15th of June, so this Monday coming up. 10 companies per cohort, 2 cohorts a year, so we'll do another cohort in the spring of 2021. We make a $50K equity investment. And, the big question that entrepreneurs have is, well, how much of my equity do I need to give up for that? And we're pragmatic about that. We are targeting early stage companies. We think there will be some that are even, pre-revenue and perhaps not even done with their MVP, and other companies that are further along. And we want great companies and great entrepreneurs. So we will work to, value your company at a fair valuation, and that's how we'll determine the equity swap for the cash.
Yeah, perfect. Sounds fair. Well, you planned and launched Pax before all of COVID-19 and everything going on. So now that we're a few months in with Pax and you're, in the middle of COVID-19 here, so how are you adapting? And on the same note, what are the industries that you're investing in and you think are hot and that you also want to stay away from?
Yeah, that's a good question. And this was not part of the plan when we launched. We launched in January. So in some sense, the companies that we're investing in now, what matters is, the economy 5 years from now. And it's, when it comes time to exit or do the big raises. But clearly there are areas that are doing well now and others that are not. I don't, I've got one portfolio company that was rolling out with an IoT service in hotel rooms with a major hotel chain. he's not in a good
Not so
place.
hot. Yeah.
He's on life support, and I'm not inclined to reinvest because I just think he is going to have a rough time. E-commerce, I just reinvested in an e-commerce company that's doing well. Anything that's kind of furthering the digital world. So I recently also reinvested in a company that's doing digital identity services. Cybersecurity continues to go strong, and this work from home creates new challenges. Telecom and datacom also, so invaluable for communications and being able to connect people no matter where they are. So certainly, those are financial technology and insurance technology continue to go strong. And with the consumer products, you just never know what the next thing is that's going to come along. My wife was and I were chatting about what's next, and I kind of turned it on her. I said, "You've been part of this work from home thing and watching us work from home. What's missing?" And she knows that when I'm working from home, I like to be close to where the people are, where the action is. Yeah. But also when I get on a call, that a lot of background noises, distraction.
Not easy. Well, kids at home.
That's right. Yeah, kids, dogs, wife, and so she said, "Well, what about a microphone on the computer that locks into your voice and blocks out everything else?" And I'm sure there's some technology out there about that. Gosh, that's a great idea. So who knows what this work from home is going to create all sorts of new opportunities.
Yeah, I bet it will.
Yeah, and I'm very open right now. I mean, I think that there's a disruption going on, and that's bright minds are going to find things to exploit, things to build on that we hadn't thought of before.
Yeah, I think all of us are wishing we invested in Zoom before all this came down. I think their stock went up like 20 times or something, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that and Blue Apron, which was on life support 2 months ago, and I think they're doing very well right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's food meal delivery company.
Right. So you dedicate some of your spots in your accelerator to clean tech, I believe. Is that right? Can you just tell us a little more about that?
Sure. We clean tech or climate tech, but basically technology that in one way or another positively impacts sustainability. And there is a backstory on that. Part of, you asked me, about starting Pax and why I wanted to do it. Part of it, I've got 4 kids, and they're all in their 20s and starting their career. And I wanted to at least have an opportunity to give them a chance if they wanted to work with me and do some stuff together. My one son is a senior at University of Maryland studying environmental science, and he proposed this idea of creating a climate tech focus. And at first, I agreed, but it was went into it kicking and screaming, and I thought, oh gosh, we're going to take a haircut on this one. It turns out it was a great decision on so many levels. It's people are smart and people care about companies that make good decisions and right decisions, and I think we've just gotten a whole different level of treatment because of the foresight that we're showing and the leadership that we're showing. People, if anything, are more interested and eager to be part of what we're doing. I think we're receiving a higher level of quality of applicants that people want to be associated with companies that are trying to do the right thing. Yeah. Opened up a whole new network for us of this community that's very bright. And my worry was that climate tech was the antithesis to profitability. And just the opposite. I mean, everyone's figured out that if we're going to make a big change, it can't be all subsidized. It's got to be profit driven. And so it's a very exciting part. We're seeing such innovation right now. I think there's a real resurgence, and a lot of that driven by other responsible companies that are taking aggressive goals for reducing their carbon footprint. And it's just it's having the impact that they expected it to have, which is to spur lots of innovation and investment dollars.
Yeah, super. I definitely want to support clean tech and reducing our emissions and anything we can do to help future generations have healthy lives on Earth.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's
right.
great. You're working with your son on the Accelerator. That's super. Keeping some of it in the family. It's a great opportunity for him too.
I hope so. Yeah, it's been a joy and a pleasure for me.
Super, super. All right, well, let's see. Let's talk a little bit about the state of funding, in particular seed funding and also maybe venture funding. I'm sure that you work towards getting venture funding for your startups after you have them in your program. So tell us a little bit about how you see things changing now and some advice on how to go about it, for current founders.
Sure. I'm optimistic by nature. Some people accuse me of being delusionally optimistic, and I think there's probably some truth to that. And I think that we've got a hiccup right now, but that funding is going to be available for good companies. Having said that, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners have read the same data I have, we're looking at a quarter or two where you're going to see a pullback on that very early stage funding. And that's driven by a lot of factors: fear, needing to take care of portfolio companies that are perhaps not doing so well. I think it's going to be tight through the fall. However, bigger picture, one of the companies that you mentioned, NS8, is a company that I was fortunate to invest in early on. And the CEO is one of our headliners. His company today announced, I'm a board observer, so I've known about this for a while, but a huge Series A, $120 million Series A round.
Whoa.
And, yeah. Ridiculous. And it's a company that's just doing remarkably well. I'm so happy for their success. And these are, serial entrepreneurs that have got some battle wounds, and so I'm very happy to see this one really working out for them in a big way. But my partners in this deal include a insurance company, or a VC extension of an insurance company in French called AXA, and then one of the big venture capital firms, Lightspeed. And Lightspeed is probably top 10 in terms of size, and recently announced a $1.5 billion fund that they raised. And I think that's typical of a lot of the large private equity firms and VC firms. They, once they raise money, the stopwatch starts. They've got only a certain number of years before their investors expect that money to be returned. And, if you remember Forrest Gump and the famous hurricane scene, and the hurricane subsides, and there's Lieutenant Dan's boat, safe and sound, and he had all the fishing to himself for a few years and was able to create an empire. So, I think that the smart investors will find deals now. There's going to, be probably less competition, and that the economy is going to return, and we're going to get back to normal. And those VCs are sitting on mounds and mounds and mounds of cash, and they're going to be desperate for good-looking deals. So I think it's, you got to be optimistic and press forward, and I think it's going to work out nicely.
Well, I've heard that the angel investors are more active right now because they're apt to take more risk. Is that right?
I don't know. I saw on PitchBook they were forecasting a slight dip in the number of deals, not like, terrible, but back to like 2011 for a quarter or two. And so I think that they, angel investors are not managing a fund. They're not required to put money to work. And I think that there's a little bit of wait and see. The stock market's back to where it started at the beginning of the year. I think confidence is starting to build back up again. So, I think for 3 to 6 months, it's going to be a little tight, but it'll get back to normal soon. And, good investors are greedy, and when they see a good company, they know it, and they will figure out a way to make the investment.
Yeah, I bet they will. So have hope, everyone. There are still investors out there that you can engage. And, on that note, we talked about before, about how startups need to pivot. And so obviously a lot of businesses and startups are struggling to survive right now. What advice can you give them if it seems like their product is not quite ready for the market time-wise?
Yeah, that's also a great question. Anyone that spends any time with me will know that after I've invested in 50 or 60 companies, and then I've met dozens and dozens of more entrepreneurs that I've gotten to know over the years, and revenue is vital, and to get revenue, you really got to hone your skills around sales and marketing. Another important reason to hone your skills around sales and marketing is, when you're in those early stages and you're looking to fail quickly, you want to make sure that if you're getting bad data back, it's not because you're not executing well on, the blocking and tackling, or in other words, the fundamentals of sales and marketing. You don't want to give up because you think your product's bad, but it turns out that you're just not doing any of the right stuff for sales and marketing. So thing number one is, become a student of, how to acquire customers, and make sure you're giving yourself a chance to have success. Yeah, the other thing is on timing. So many entrepreneurs, when they kind of get reminiscent and they look back on this company or that company, and many, many times I've heard the same refrain is, we were before our time. We were just too early.
Yeah.
Had we started 5 years later, we would have been the next YouTube and whatever. And, it is the job of, entrepreneurs are like poets. They're kind of, writing to the next generation and writing to the needs of the future. So you got to be a little bit forward looking. But the timing issue, I think, are things that you can control. I talked about the aspect of our company, Segovia, where we realized we needed to pivot our focus from commercial customers to the federal government, the Department of Defense in particular. This company, NS8, which I've mentioned a couple times and I'm so proud of, when they went through an accelerator, this one Mach 37, and they had the technology that was cool. They had assets around the internet that was tracking certain kinds of traffic, and had certain ideas on what they wanted to do, but couldn't quite figure out the product market fit and figure out what was going to work for them. And the real breakthrough was matching their technology with the timing. They ended up with a product which is an app in the Shopify store and WooCommerce and some of these platforms, which doesn't sound very sexy, and it doesn't sound like the kind of company that's going to generate $120 million Series A. But that's exactly what happened. So they took their fancy technology, they figured out how to productize it in a simple way, they were smart about the go-to-market, and they made the timing work for themselves. And what they were trying to do, maybe it's going to come into fruition someday, but not in a way that's would have been nearly as successful. So I don't know. There's just that flexibility, and going all mindful about just accepting the reality, some certain realities, of what's going on in the market, and willing to adjust and make those work. Don't be the guy or the woman 10 years from now talking about your failed startup and saying, I'm just too visionary, I was too far ahead of my time. You don't get a pass from me on that story.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, you can't spend, years and years building something when, you haven't proven the market, or the market just isn't there yet. And so, there's certainly a balance between kind of persevering, but also recognizing, look, this just isn't working. We need to either pivot or just shut down. But yeah, as far as pivoting, one of my mentors kind of advised me is that what you can do is try to really hone your focus, to focus on a very specific market where you can, be the leader, let's say. Obviously it's going to be a smaller market, but it may be a way for you to get through a recession like this, and then expand later in the future when things are better.
Yeah, that's interesting. Gosh, I mean, you're right. I can think of companies and examples of successes that followed that strategy. But then there are other companies that were just jumping into big, fast-growing markets and never became the leaders. But found a niche within there where they could compete, and in a rising tide, all the boats go up, and sometimes just being part of that rising tide is enough.
Yeah, definitely. That helps. All right, well, let's shift to one more topic. Let's talk about co-founders and teams. And I know you have a lot of experience working with your own co-founders and also the founders you invest with. So what can you tell us about, maybe starting off solo, and then, how do you consider bringing in co-founders and building your team?
Yeah, I've developed stronger feelings over this with time. I don't know. I think there's something the kind of soul that the whole entrepreneurial story appeals to is independent and confident and wants to go it alone. And we all want to be the next Steve Jobs or Elon Musk. And I know that there's a few of them out there, but I'll tell you, my experience is very much that if you want to improve your chances of success, build a team, and build a team early. Some of the worst experiences you'll have in life are partnerships in business, and it can be tough. A lot of those challenges come down the road, but they're problems that can be solved. And I suspect that's part of the reason for people being concerned is they've heard stories about partnerships that go south. Nevertheless, I think it's, better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. And it's kind of like that with partners, that it's worth taking that chance. There are, legal provisions that can make dispute resolution easier to resolve. There's a few smart things you can do early on. Make sure that the equity that everybody owns has to vest, so nobody can walk away with a big chunk of the company early on, which is a kiss of death. Just know that by the time the company, when there's something to fight over, when the company actually becomes valuable, you'll see that your flat, team of people you start with has to become a little more hierarchical. Yeah. And that's going to create some sore feelings, and it's going to be hard to figure out. Be grateful that there's something to argue over, because most startups don't even get that far. But that can be challenging. But especially now, money's a little tight. You got to have your A game going. Really think about finding other people and maybe other startups that you can kind of merge in with, but creating, the companies that I've seen do well in my last decade, that is a common denominator, that they have 5, 6 more founders, the equity's fairly distributed, and they can just get out of the gate so quickly. And they're the ones that, they start off and they each have 15% of the company. And you think, gosh, can I ever make any money with 15% of the company? Well, when the company gets huge, you're going to make that 15%, even after dilution from investors, is going to be very meaningful.
Yeah. If you're successful, it'll grow hopefully many times over, right?
Yeah. You want a smaller piece of a really, really, really big pie.
Okay, so let's see. As far as co-founders in particular, though, what do you look for? What advice do you give founders? How to find someone who's a good match for you?
Yeah, I love the your business, right? Of matching up coders with and that's always a challenge for me, is that I'm not technical, and so if looking at different opportunities, I would need a team with somebody who is technical. But you can think functionally, that you need somebody that's going to understand the product and how to get it built. You need sales and marketing. And, sometimes the sales and marketing people and the technologists, the scientists, the engineers, it's kind of cats and dogs. They see the world a little bit differently. but you need each other. And probably more than anything, just smart people that can adapt to new, problems and solve problems. Certainly an investor, I love to hear about co-founders that have been together for a while, that maybe have founded other companies together, have worked together in the past. Anything to give some assurance that there's a decent chance that, the chemistry is going to be okay, that they are emotionally stable, and that they are willing to work through different problems.
Yeah, I think it is one of the top reasons startups fail is that the co-founders just can't get along. How often have you seen that happen?
Well, I've not seen companies fail because of that. Companies fail because they run out of money, because they fail to raise money. And that's usually because they're not, for a number of reasons. But that's the most common reason is the money runs out and they didn't have a good enough story to either get customers or get some investment money. Let's see, with co-founders, I've seen co-founders, I've had to play, do a little, counseling among co-founders in my role as a board member. And, it can be tricky. And sometimes it's the board ones that end up having to take on some difficult responsibilities. So, I've seen that. I think everybody wants all the co-founders to work it out, and there's a lot of patience. But I am a believer that if there's a problem on the team, you got to fix it and fix it quickly. And so, right. If it's a clear problem, you got to gang up and, always reward the person for the work they've done. But you're always thinking about what's the go-forward team and making sure that you got the right people there. So it happens. The partnerships are tricky. I haven't seen companies fail because of the bad partnerships. I've seen partners removed because they're not doing their part. So despite the risk and the potential heartache, I really would encourage entrepreneurs to think in terms of building a team. Yeah,
definitely. I want to just ask everyone who's watching to post any questions you have. I don't think we have any questions yet, but if you post them in the chat in YouTube, we should see them, or in the comments in Facebook. In Facebook, you may need to actually give us permission. I can see Diane's comments. I don't think I see anyone else from Facebook, but check if there's a little link to give us permissions to see your comments. And as far as what I've seen for co-founders, there are a lot of events that try to match co-founders. I'm not sure how successful they are, but I think in general, networking is a great way to meet people who you will want to work with. And now it's more difficult because we have to do it all online for the time of meetings. But there are some conferences that have, been somewhat successful at having people network on, virtually. I think, everyone is learning how to best do that. But what we've been doing is just using LinkedIn groups and Facebook groups for now. But there are a lot of, full conference, platforms out there that can help people. There's one that I saw that has little tables that you can, join. So you could give each table a theme, and then people who are interested can go in there. And it's geared towards being a little bit like a live experience. So you go to that table and you can actually see the people who are at that table, on your screen. Have you used it?
I'm off the big thing. Everyone, you got to work your network. Certainly, I think I have more comfort in a story where the co-founder is somebody that they went to college with, or that they worked with in the past, or some shared connection. But even a wider net. When I hire people, I like put an ad in LinkedIn or Indeed describing what you're looking for, and really try and just like any good sales or marketing strategy, put a lot of feelers out there, kind of do a shotgun approach and start lots of conversations and see where it goes.
Yeah, definitely. Getting someone referred through your network is always, better than just a random person approaching you because they saw your post. But those work too sometimes, so yeah, it's worth trying all those different avenues for sure.
Absolutely. It's like one time thing. It's, if you're serious about that, you really got to be consistent about trying to reach out. And that's another great thing about incubator and accelerator programs. With the accelerators where I've been closely involved, you see a lot of movement, and you see people moving around from job to job. You see smart networkers that are hanging out at the incubators and the accelerators, looking for something they can sink their teeth into and they can contribute and be part of it.
Yeah, definitely. And when I say networking, it's not necessarily that you'll meet someone right away that you want to join up with, but maybe a few years later, you have that person in mind and you have a new product idea and you think they'll be interested in. So just being aware of people in your network can help quite a lot, for anything you need really for your company, even if you just need a service provider for something. You guys probably have some kind of network for, mentors and advisors and service providers. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. There's a couple things that we're trying to do. The bottleneck. So part of the reason why I did Pax Momentum is I feel like the bottleneck for great ideas is that very early stage investing. Every city is going to have a group of great, active and value-adding angel investors and seed investors. Our group in DC this Blu Ventures that I've been part of, we do 6 or more companies a year, but we've got our areas that we like and areas that we don't like. And so you might be an awesome, consumer product. We're not going to talk to you because we don't do consumer products. And the pharmaceutical types of companies, not our thing. So, just because an entrepreneur is in DC and the biggest angel investor is not interested in this thing, I don't want that to be the end of the story for that idea and for that entrepreneur. And so really, that's the whole idea, is to draw entrepreneurs from different markets and then also investors. As we, build out our Pax investors, we're making sure that they're not all from one market. They're coming from up and down from Boston down to Miami, and we're kind of more central time zone and eastern time zone focused. That each investor brings his own network with him and his own background and experience and expertise, so that we can just give every opportunity for that successful entrepreneur to get that next round of funding. Once the company gets some traction and they get going, they're not going to. Good companies find investment. Especially when you get to the VC level, you don't have to work the VCs. You just got to have a good company, and they're smart, and they'll see the opportunity, and you'll get investment money. It's really early on is where I worry about the entrepreneurs, and that's the problem I'm trying to solve for.
Yeah, awesome, definitely. Well, we do have a question come in about the future of e-commerce, if you could address that one.
The next 10 years? Oh my gosh. I'm going to be alive in 10 years. I don't know about 10 years. I can tell you for the next year, it's going to be hot. And any technologies that go to enhance e-commerce, you've got Amazon, and they're kind of their own thing. Amazon is like 12% of retail, maybe 30% of online. You've got these platforms that are exploding right now that make it so easy for a seller that doesn't want to be on Amazon's platform to do their own thing. So that would be, Shopify and WooCommerce and Magento and all these, smaller platforms. Lapri is one that I recently invested in that focuses on, actually secondhand, super high-end fashion, Gucci purses and stuff. So, there's just tons of opportunities to make e-commerce available and a great experience for consumers everywhere.
Yeah.
So I like e-commerce.
That's a good bet right now, yeah. Why don't you tell us a little bit about one of your clean tech investments?
Very good. It's interesting with the clean tech, and I feel a little inadequate talking to a Boston audience about clean tech and climate tech, since Boston is really the epicenter for that kind of innovation and that kind of investing. So you definitely see the swing for the fence technologies, and those can be a little scary for an angel investor. I'm not going to lie. Somebody that comes and talks about and that they're just a few investment dollars away from cracking the code. That would be great, but that sounds a little risky. We are, seeing tons of cool innovations. I mean, algae. It's all about algae right now, right? And other carbon, capture technologies. A lot of can be done just with incremental technology. So that's kind of where I've been historically is, commercial real estate, for example, big consumers of technology, potentially lots of inefficiencies there. And it's been awesome to see sensor technology that can create not a, 90% cut in energy, but, 10 or 15% and beyond, just by helping the building to be a little bit smarter about, where the lights are on and where you're losing money through air conditioning running when it shouldn't be running. Also, smart grid technology, great opportunity for sensors there to, take existing electrical grid and just through better information and better real-time data, make it more efficient. So, those would be a couple examples. A company that I'm thinking of is one called SenseWare, and they make the building IoT sensors. Mach-Fu is another one that I've invested heavily in, and again, they're helping the existing electric grids become more intelligent.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I have heard a lot of technologies coming out for the farming or agri-tech, industry. We touched on IoT, so IoT is enabling us to deploy a lot of devices, collect tons of data, build up that, big data, and hopefully use it to optimize the production.
Mm-hmm.
But do you have any experience in that realm?
Yeah, a couple. I'll mention one, using autonomous technology, and my co-founder and son's here. Maybe I'll ask him to pop his head in for a second and share some soil technology that's looks very, very promising. With the ag tech, right? Defense is always looking at drone technology, and kind of the big goal, Nirvana, is swarming technology. How do you create a swarm of small drones, right? That can work together and become a good weapon for our Department of Defense. So out of Iowa, we got an application for tractor drone technology, swarming tractor drones, smaller equipment, unmanned, more efficient, and able to, through the use of this, deep technology, enable tractors to work in a way where they can work together quickly and perform more work, and smaller and more efficient and work around the clock. And it's a net decrease in the impact on the environment. Jack, you want to talk a little bit about that? Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah. Oh. A quick one. I'll have Jack explain how algae is being used to oil.
Hey, how are you?
Please do.
So there's this company called True Algae that's in DC. They're a little bit further along. They haven't applied to us, but we were talking to them about being a potential mentor. And they use algae as a fertilizer. And they've seen, it's something unbelievable. I think it's 10% increase in yield just using this technology. And they've seen cases where it's been up to 70% increase. And this, they're decreasing the use of fertilizers, and it's all through this natural organic algae.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The best.
Yeah, I go to Maryland. I study science, so this is kind of my my passion, I guess you could say.
Cool.
Jack.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, any other topic before we kind of wrap up here, Matt?
Let's see here. There's so much to talk about. This is a subject I can go on and on about. Anything to do with startups. I am happy for your community that they've got a resource like all the great information that you're sharing. For startups that feel like they would benefit from it, I'd invite them to check out Pax Momentum. We're at Pax MV, as in mass times velocity.com, Pax MV. And you're taking a chance on us because this is our inaugural cohort. I think that gives us all the more incentive to make sure that it's a great experience. There's through the website, you can contact me and the rest of the team with any questions. Those that make it through these next few months, I think we're going to see another round of really great companies that emerge from 2020. And so I know it's rough. I encourage all the aspiring entrepreneurs to stick with it and to be optimistic. And, I always say the three keys to success in life are creativity, enthusiasm, and a good sense of humor.
All right. Awesome. Yeah, I love it.
Keep those things and be successful.
Yeah. Keep pushing out there, all of you founders, and reach out to the Accelerator program if you're interested, for sure. And we do have the links on BNT's website on our opportunities section, bostonnewtechnology.com. You can also find out about all the great upcoming events, virtual now, but mostly from Boston-based organizations. So we have at least 100 free virtual events coming up that are posted on our events page. So I think we'll wrap this up. I thank Matt for being our guinea pig for the first founder, Sagas. And we'll be running these weekly, so we don't have the next featured speaker set for next Wednesday, but look for that announcement over the next couple days. And if you appreciate these interviews, please share, subscribe, comment, or write a review. And we thank you for tuning in and hope to see you next time. Matt?
Thank you.
Thanks again.
It's been a great evening.
All right. We'll be in touch. Good luck with the Accelerator.
Okay. Thank you.
Cheers.